Yes, we met. Sorry, I've been told sometimes people can't tell when I'm being sarcastic. That was sarcastic. But Mike and I, like 18 years ago, met on a mission trip in Steubenville, Ohio. He had brought a mission team of youth from Bel Air, Maryland, and I brought a mission team from up here. Actually, some Saranac Lake Baptist Church kids were on that mission trip, and then my church in Lake Placid at that time. And we met, and it was like, I won't say love at first sight. That'd just make it even more awkward. But we just connected, and we gelled. And then in the midst of all that, Mike had been doing some ministry. He's always done ministry, but was really called into something new. And I think it's going to be encouraging to hear about it and also figure out how we can partner with this ministry. And we'll give some very specifics as we roll. But Mike, now that I have chatted everybody's ear off and prepared. Oh, Mike also is a minor prophet. He came over to our house 15 years ago, and he looked at Molly and said, "You're pregnant." And 2 weeks later, we found out that we were pregnant with Molly. Or pregnant with Micah. Sorry, we were pregnant with Micah. And so Mike dabbles in that. So anyway, dabbles in just, sorry, we probably turned you on. So didn't know. There you go. All right, so Mike, maybe introduce yourself. Tell us about maybe your ministry a little bit more and how it got started off the ground. And do we need to move or adjust for the camera? Anything? No? All right. So we want Mike to be able to be in the shot. Go.
You done?
I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah. Church says that every Sunday, man. I'm used to it.
That's all right. My leadership team says the same thing every time I open my mouth. Are you finished yet? Hey, I got to say, first of all, if you ever come into church and you're just like, man, I'm not sure I want to be here today, I'm struggling through worship or whatever, I encourage you to take a few steps back and hang out in a sound booth with Darren and with Micah. Seriously, the guys are back there singing and worshiping God, and they're like unashamedly doing it. So that is such an encouragement to see young guys just worshiping Jesus. So if you're like me, you're a little bit older, and sometimes you get the weight of everything else, step back there and go worship with those boys a little bit. It's pretty awesome. So anyway, okay, sweet. So that's that. So what am I doing?
Hi, my name is Mike. Yeah, you're introducing yourself, sorry. And then you're also how the ministry. So the ministry is called Breathe 379 and how 379 and how that got off the ground.
Okay.
So yeah.
So like you said, I'm Mike. In case you hadn't heard it 12 times yet.
Sorry.
But so I started out with ministry kind of like when I gave my heart to the Lord. I was about 15 years old. I shared earlier. I always had a real tender heart just for God, even when I was a kid. I'm laying in bed early one Sunday morning, had a little tiny blue AM radio. You can only get little goofy stations on it. And it was a Sunday morning, and I remember the guy comes on the announcements and says, "Hey, we've just torn down this church in Baltimore City." And my heart broke. It just sunk. And I started to cry, and I got up, and I ran in my mom's room, and I woke Mom up. She's like, she's freaking out Sunday morning. What's going on? And I'm like, they just tore down Jesus' house. He has a place to live. Can he move in with us? That's where my mind was. I'm like, we got to get Jesus a house. That's all I know. So ever since then, I've just had a little bit of a heart just for God. I just want to go after him. And I always don't know what that looks like. So gave my heart to Jesus at 15, met him, and just kind of started going from there. Did some missions trips with the youth groups and stuff like that, in the country, out of the country. Became worship leader, all that kind of stuff. And as I kind of grew, I started doing more and more things. And I would, if I knew somebody needed food, I'd get them food. If I knew that they needed clothing, I got them clothing. Just little odds and ends like that. I actually became a music pastor and a creative arts director for a church. And that was great, yeehaw, and all that stuff. And I shared this in the first service, and I'll share it again now. Being up here, we're in Pastor Jacob's position, takes a lot of work. We, as church members, get to come in, and we get and sit, and we get to enjoy the music for 30 minutes or whatever it is, but you don't see the prayers, the heart that goes into the preparation for all that. And I know he does a lot more than that, but being somebody that was a music pastor, man, I give him and his team a huge shout out, because it takes a lot. It does. Because the reality is there are days where you get up and you don't feel like worshiping Jesus. I mean, you all can stone me, but that's the way it is. Maybe that's only me. I don't know. But sometimes life gets too heavy, and you're just like, oh, come on, for real? But somehow Jesus shows up, and he meets you. So, Pastor Jacob, thanks for coming up and doing all this stuff and just leading the church into the presence of Jesus. So, that's
Origin story of Breathe.
and then we're going right
Yep.
into it. So,
Yep.
I was a music pastor at a church, and I said all that to say, because I know he does a lot more than just worship. My position was just worship. We were a church of about 1,000 people, and I would sit in the office 7 days a week working on music and stuff like that. And I kept thinking, there's got to be more than just this. And I remember driving one day from home to, it was either from home to work or from work to home, whichever. And there was an old strip mall on Eastern Avenue, because y'all know where Eastern Avenue is in Baltimore. Anyway, so I felt like God said, hey, turn off in there and go in there and just hang out for a little while. So I went in there and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this strip mall and it's got an old Sam's Club and a Hardee's and Ames and all this other stuff. And I was like, you know that spot over there, that would be a great clothing closet. That spot would be an awesome place for counseling and things like that. And I started writing all this stuff down. And I went and I shared it with some people, and I'm like, hey, look, this is what I feel like God's speaking to me. And they're like, hey, no. They said, you're going to fail. It's too big. You're not good enough to do it and all that stuff. So I did what every faith-filled man of God would do, and I put it away. And I said, people are telling me it's not going to work. So I put it away, and I left it away for a long, long time. Got a job, really good job. I was making really good money, a lot of promises for, you know, what the future was going to hold. And all of a sudden, it came crashing down. The CEO of the company decided that he was leaving, and the board came in and said, okay, you're so loyal to him, you've got to go too. So I was like, great. So literally everything came crashing down. The day that I left, I was so mad. I got my computer and everything, and as I was walking out the door, there's a big plant there. And I walked over and I grabbed the plant. And I said, I'm taking the plant with me. And I walked out the door. So just a side note. If anybody ever fires me again, I'm taking the plants with me. So anyway, so I left. And I was like, all right, God, what do I do? And I would get little odds and ends jobs. And nothing was working. In the meantime, I felt like God was always nudging me, going, hey, that paper that you've got in your desk, pull it out and look at it. I'd pull it out and I'd share it with somebody, and nope, too big, you can't do it. You're going to fail. And I'd put it away again. So I finally got another job working for an organization called NAMI, which is, they do work with mentally ill folks and things like that. And I was running this particular office. And I went in and I said, all right, God, I said, here's the deal. I said, if this job closes down, I'm taking that as a sign from you that I need to go ahead and figure out how to do Breathe. 1 month later, almost to the day, they hired a new executive director, and they came in and they said, hey, you've done nothing wrong, but we have no more money for you and your position. You have to leave. So I walked out the door. I called a friend of mine named Sonia.
Did you take a plant?
They were so poor they didn't have plants.
Can we have somebody posted at the door? We have 2 plants out there that we want to keep today.
I don't even like plants. I don't know why I took it.
That's right.
It was just a purpose of it. It was just a thing, man.
That's good.
So anyway, so I went outside and I called my friend Sonia in North Carolina, and I'm like, what do I do? And we talked, and we're like, okay, we're starting this thing. I had a 1-bedroom apartment at the time, and I was like, what is the first thing that I can do? Because I'm so depressed. I got to get out of this thing. And I remembered years ago I had done a toy drive. Done a real easy toy drive, collected 250 toys, had no idea what I was doing back then. Still didn't know what I was doing, but I could figure something out. So we started collecting toys. A bunch of people came to my house. We wrapped everything up, blah, blah, blah. We went out, did the toy drive. Yay, this is great. And then little by little, things started happening. I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I would get a call from this, it wasn't really a homeless, it was an emergency homeless shelter. And we had a big snowstorm, and they said, listen, we have no food for breakfast. We've got about 50 people up here. Is there anything you can do? Because I'm me, and I don't think like regular people. I'm like, sure, it's a snowstorm. What do I got to lose? So I'm like, okay. So I grabbed all this oatmeal and started making oatmeal, called up some friends, and I said, hey, I need you to come with me. They thought I was crazy because, again, snowstorm, but we're going anyway. Now, I'm sure that snowstorms in Maryland are not like, would you all get up here? But for Maryland, it was a snowstorm. But everybody met there. We met at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I had gotten some old clothes and taken all that stuff with us, and got there about 5:30 in the morning and set up. People woke up, we were feeding them. Our volunteers were talking with them. And I overheard a volunteer saying, what's something you guys need that could really be a help? And the person said backpacks. They said, we get stuff all the time handed to us in those little plastic grocery bags. And he said, they rip, we lose our stuff, people steal them. He said, but if we got a backpack, we can put it on our back and go. I didn't think anything of it. I kept going because I had stuff to do. The next morning I woke up and there's a box. I don't want to lie. It was 2 mornings later. I woke up and there's a box of brand new backpacks sitting at my apartment door with a sign on it that said, fill them. It's like, okay, I guess I'm filling backpacks. So we started this thing called Backpack Survival Kits, and we would just take them out and hand them out on the streets. They had food in it, they had toilet paper in it, they had clothes in it, all that kind of stuff. And things started from there. We did the toy drive again. There's a large car dealership down there called Jones Junction. They called us, and they said, hey, we heard what you're doing. Can you come meet us? And I honestly thought that they had more toys for us. So when I got there, I expected to get toys. They had an area about the size of your foyer out there loaded with food that they went to, I guess, like a Sam's Club or Price Club or something like that, and they bought a ton of food. And I'm like, guys, and they said, we want you to start a food pantry. I'm like, I got nowhere to go. I said, I've got a 1-bedroom apartment. What? And they said, well, it's your problem now. We bought the food. So I'm like, great. So I load up the truck, and I get back to my apartment, unload everything in my kitchen, and I'm standing there, and I'm going, sometimes we can get a little bit of an attitude with Jesus, and I'm so thankful that he loves us that it doesn't offend him, okay? And I went like this. I went, Lord, this is your fault. Figure it out. And I walked out of the room. And as I was walking out of the room, I don't know how Jesus talks to you all sometimes. Sometimes I talk to people, and, well, God spoke to me, and he said, thou son of God. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what I get. A lot of times I get, hey, you idiot, listen to what I'm saying, okay? And I literally felt like Jesus flicked me in the ear and said, go look behind that door. So I went over and I opened up the door, and there's a stairwell that's hidden there. It's blocked off. Nobody can go up and down steps. And I'm going, interesting. So I called the owner, and I said, hey, can I put some shelves up in there and just store food? He said, yeah. So I've got a food pantry in my 1-bedroom apartment. So as we would hear of needs, we would grab food or we would grab clothes, and we would take it out and get it to people. We did some other events. We do an event called Breathe Hope, where we show up in a neighborhood. We've got a big grill, and we would just do this massive cookout. Nobody knew we were coming. We'd start cooking. We'd run around, knock on doors. Hey, come on out, have some food with us and hang out. We'd get to pray with people. We took our pantry items out. We took all the clothes out. At this particular Breathe Hope event, the gentleman that was volunteering cooking, I'd never really met him before, says, hey, he says, what do you guys do for a building? And I laughed at him, and I said, we don't have a building. We can't afford that. I said, I can barely afford to pay my rent right now. And he says, well, I'd like to have dinner with you. He said, I think I've got a building for you. Now, listen, everybody's got something for you when you're working in a nonprofit or whatever. And I could tell you that maybe a third of them actually come through. So I was like, okay, great, sure. He had a building. He took me to the building, and it was run down. The floors were all jacked up. The walls had holes in them. The HVAC unit then, funny because our HVAC unit now has just gone up, but the HVAC unit then was not working whatsoever. We had about 2 to 3 feet of water in the cellar. And he's like, so you want the building? Sure. Okay. So we took the building, and we started cleaning it up little by little. And we had a couple events there, and as we're cleaning it up, we're like, you know what? We need to just open up and see what we can do with it. And that started what we called the Hope Center. So organizations Breathe 37.9, our facility is called the Hope Center. So we put up a couple little shelves, and we had some food stocked on shelves, and we had some clothes laid out, and we started inviting people in. We had this little table, maybe twice the size of this, and we had a 1-serve coffee pot thing where people would get coffee from. And that was all we had, but we knew we were supposed to open up. 3 weeks later, COVID hits. And we're like, you've got to be kidding me. Governor comes on and says, everything's got to shut down, blah, 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 except for your essential. And I'm looking, and I remember walking into the room, 3 shelves, that's all we had. And I'm going, I got 3 shelves of food. That makes me essential. So we decided we were going to stay open. So people would come to the door. They would let us know what they needed. We'd pull it, give it to them. We'd go outside and pray with them, share lunches with them, and we continued to roll from there. Can we show the video?
Yeah, let's cue up the video. As it's starting, do you want to talk about the name Breathe 3?
Yes.
Yep.
So Breathe 37.9. I love the fact that there's no like colon or anything like that in our logo. It's just Breathe, and it looks like 379. Because I want people to ask me. So Breathe 379 comes from Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 9. So it's actually Breathe 37.9, where God told Ezekiel to breathe life into the dry bones, into the valley of bones, that they would come alive. And we believe that's what we're called to do, is to breathe life, breathe hope into the people that are around us. How many people do we know, and maybe even myself, you're living week to week, paycheck to paycheck. And unless somebody comes alongside of you offering some kind of hope, you're just not going to make it. And that's what we do. You could turn that way up if you don't mind for me, please. I'm not going to sing or anything, I promise.
You're a good singer.
So little clips that you'll see, this is what we call Bailey Sue's Country Market. So folks get to come in and they go shopping. This is the Cabin, our clothing boutique. Folks get to come in and go shopping. None of it, there's no charge for anything. This is called The Well. We serve fresh brewed coffees, hot tea, iced coffee, lunches. And again, no charge for anything.
Did it start with the whole coffee shop, or was that a little bit?
No, it all just started, all of it was all together at one time.
Gotcha.
Hey Emily, what are you doing today? Hey Pat, what are you up to today?
I am getting the clothing cabin ready for people to come and just be able to choose things that they need and help anyone we can.
We gotta know what to do.
Hi. What are you doing today, Cheryl, besides making sure people don't get too comfortable
We are
here?
welcoming new people, telling them what Breathe Hope Center is all about, and loving on them, and letting them have some market items, showing them where to go and how to get all that into those things.
Look at all
Those
that
things.
squash.
And also for the clothing closet, so they can go pick out any clothing they might need. And I'm gonna show Emily how to do that, so she'll love on people today too. Yay.
Hey Nick, what are you doing today?
Well, serving coffee, serving lunches. What are you doing today?
I'm taking videos.
All right.
Hey Mike, what are you doing today?
All over to everything. I get to run all around, make sure all of our people are taken care of as they're serving the community. So when folks arrive, they come actually to the back of the building, which is where our main entrance is. They come in through here. They're met with somebody who does a registration real quick for them, finds out what they need. They step down and Nick takes their drink order, their lunch order, and then he hands them off to Terry, who's our host. And just like at a restaurant, we seat you at a table. We have assigned seating. We keep all the lights dim. So it's just a disarming, really comfortable place. When you've registered, you let us know if you need to go into the market or to the boutique. So you get your food, you eat, you hang out, and then we'll take you into the pantry, or into the market rather. I don't like the word pantry.
It brings a lot of dignity back to somebody that needs help. They're not just going to, some back garage and grabbing stuff off a shelf. It's just like a market you would have.
Yeah, and that's why we're getting away from using the words like pantry, clothing closet. We're a market, we're a boutique, we're a coffee bar. We have folks that'll come in the door a lot of times and they stop and they say, hey, sorry, we thought we were here for a pantry, not a restaurant. And we're like, no, you're in the right place. And the coolest thing is to see people walk into one of these rooms and break down crying and go, you mean I get to pick what I need and I'm not just being told what I can have, or handed 2 bags of groceries and then go. We have everything in the boutique from baby all the way up to larger size clothes for both men and women. We make sure that tagline, in it together, is something that we say all the time because we know we cannot do this by ourselves. We don't do government funding or anything like that. It literally is people like yourselves, people in the community. That's the only way that we continue to operate.
Why would somebody in your position not want government funding? Just
Because if we do government funding, so when we first started, we had the county call us. The thing is that they were trying to tell us who, what, where, when, how often we can give stuff to people. And I said, man, you got to realize I've got people literally coming from an hour and a half away to get things. That's not a pat on our back, but it's because we're so different. We're treating people with dignity. Even if you don't need anything, you're welcome to come and sit, have a cup of coffee. We now have people, we have a lady in there, 82 years old, Miss Loretta. She's one of our board directors' mothers. Love Miss Loretta. Her main goal is just to be there and love on people. And she walks around from table to table, and she prays with people. We had a lady come in one day, she says, I just want to put her in my pocket and take her home. You know? That's just the atmosphere we do. We have people that just come just to sit, just to be there, just because they want somebody to talk to. We found out that the more we know their name, the more special they feel. A lot of people are going around, they have nobody to talk to, nobody knows their name, and they just want somebody to know that they exist. We always ask, hey, what's one thing we can be praying for? And the stories we hear are unbelievable. Not like, I have a splinter, but like, we had one lady come up and she's a grandmother. She has 6 grandkids that she's taking care of because her daughter-in-law shot her son and killed him and then killed herself. And now she's just trying to figure out how to manage life. We do popcorn once a month for everybody. They love it. We are currently averaging about 50 families every Wednesday. And that's about anywhere from 150 to 170 people every Wednesday that we get to provide lunches, food. We pray for everybody that wants prayer. We've rearranged our building about 10 times now, just trying to figure out how to keep it inviting, but also how to keep it so we've got space to get everybody in. What I think is really cool is that you can see the people buy into it, that this is their place now. This lady here, Marcella, she's been coming for several, probably about 2 years now, just for services. And at any given time.
So Mindy,
Oh, sorry.
how did you first hear about Breathe and what keeps you coming back?
Well, I found the center in a community resource magazine, and what keeps me coming back is the warm, inviting atmosphere here. The people are so kind and caring. They make you feel good. They conversate with you. They help you with all your needs. It's a great place for anyone, children, dogs, elderly, disabled. My daughter's actually disabled, and she loves coming here just to relax, have the greatest cup of coffee ever made by Mr. Nick. Cheers to Nick.
What I was saying about Marcella is we have folks that'll come in that they originally start coming in for services, and then they just jump in and they start helping. So Marcella, she's bilingual. We have a lot of Hispanic families that come in. So now she'll step up and she starts helping us translate. Or you'll see her, in one of the shots, you see her grab a broom and start sweeping up after somebody else's kids. We tell everybody, listen, when you come in here, we do tell everybody this, when you come in, you become family. The very first time you come in, a lot of people are crying because they're hurt, they're trying to figure out life. We're going to cry with you. Next week when you come in, rest assured we're going to make fun of you, and you better make fun of us back. And it's not like mean making fun, but we want everybody to feel like this is your home. You belong here. And everybody plays a part in that. So yeah, at some point I'm going to hand you a broom and say, hey, go clean that up. Go wipe that table down. Not because we're being demanding, but because you're part of us now. You have to help us keep this thing running.
So transition just a little bit. One of the biggest ministries you guys do is your Christmas ministry. I know you do some other big you do big backpack ministry for back to school, so on and so forth. But as far as the Christmas outreach, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about that, and then just tell them to roll the video when you're ready to unleash the next video. Yeah.
So everything basically started, like I said, with a toy drive. This is where it all started for me. I was trying to figure out life. I was going through a depression, and was working as a pastor at another church and thinking, as a music pastor, and I'm like, there's got to be more. So I started a toy drive. Had no idea what I was doing. There's a huge mortgage company in Baltimore called Legg Mason. They found out. They've got a 15-story building, and they put boxes on everything. FedEx found out. They called us up, and they donated a truck and a driver to get the toys out to everybody. That was the very first year. And then it kind of just went from there, kind of kept building and everything. The toy drive now we're up to, this last Christmas was our largest, and we provided toys, stockings, and pajamas for 1,000 kids. And we do it completely different. We don't do there are some places that adopt families, and that's great because you need to do that. There are families that need help. We're different in everything we do. We collect everything, and we head out on the street the Sunday before Christmas. And that's a whole other thing. People sometimes in the church go, well, you can't do that on Sunday. You should be in church. I agree. You should be in church, but there's also a time where God calls you to be the church and to go out, and to minister, to represent Jesus. Jesus didn't just come and sit in the synagogues and teach. He actually rarely did that. Jesus was out meeting people. He was out telling people who he was, what was going on. So that's the Sunday that we go out. We show up in a neighborhood, and nobody knows we're coming. It's about 50 of us. We've got Santa Claus, we've got Buddy the Elf, Mrs. Claus, and we just run through the neighborhood. We start beating on doors, and you see kids just running out. We can go ahead and hit that video if you don't mind. The very first year that we did this, I'll start the story, and then you'll hear the end of the story at the video. I had no idea what I was doing. We had, at that time, 20 volunteers. We got to the very first neighborhood, and it started to rain. And everybody's looking at me and says, well, what do we do? And I said, well, I don't know. Any suggestions? And I said, all right, listen, let's do this. Just go start knocking on doors and tell people that Santa's out here. We've got toys for the kids. The very first court we got into, we met a gentleman. And there's a story that with this gentleman, you'll see at the end of this video, that signified for me, this is it. This is what you do for the rest of your life.
Merry Christmas.
There was, actually, in this neighborhood right here 2 years ago, when we first started, we just did just toys. And then we found the kids were coming out, and they were in ripped up pajamas, and pajamas didn't fit. And one of our girls said, hey, can we do something about that? I said, sure. Next year, start collecting pajamas. So we started collecting children or anything. We have Santa at the park. We were in the very first, not this neighborhood, but the one before. And I was filming on my phone real quick in the days, and I saw this boy. He hadn't gotten his toy yet, he hadn't gotten his stocking yet. He takes off running across his field with his pajamas, and he's screaming. And he starts doing these flips. I'm like, hey, man, somebody's excited about pajamas? My friend Mel went down and talked to him and found out that he had asked his mom 2 Christmases ago for a pair of Minecraft pajamas. Minecraft pajamas, something that we wouldn't even think about. Mom told him I don't have the money. She said, let's save up and see what Santa does. For 2 years, he was told we don't have the money. The very pajamas that he got this year were Minecraft pajamas. Now, what you don't understand is that we don't know what we're giving kids. You go to the store, you buy something, you drop it off in a box in a store. That box then comes back to us. We sort everything out, we wrap it up, we drop it into another box, it goes into a truck. The guy in the truck picks it up, hands it to somebody else, hands it to somebody else, and then it gets to the kids' hands. Coincidence that this little boy gets the very pajamas that he's been waiting 2 years for? Now, that's just how much Jesus cares about this kid and how much he cares about you. That he orchestrates all of this from hand to hand, person to person, to make sure you get the very thing you want, no matter how insignificant it is to somebody else. Some of these kids, it's funny because when we go out there, Some of the kids will just run up to Santa and they'll just grab him and they'll hug him. And they'll start to move. I'll say, well, don't you want your toy? And they'll say, no, we just wanted a hug. We just wanted to see you, Santa. That's just like, that's just what's going on.
Mike has already recruited Nick to ride his unicycle as Buddy the Elf. So
This is that story.
To the truck, okay?
See the kids start running and just hang out. The very first year I did it, we hit the very first year, the very first neighborhood, the very first court, our very first stop. We got there, and there was an older gentleman and a little boy there, and the little boy's name was Kai. I'll never in my life forget this kid, forget his name, nothing. Went around to talk to this guy. He was standing there with Santa, and the guy Santa was crying. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And the grandfather says, listen, he said, I was asking Santa if we can hold on to this toy, because chances are it's the only thing Kai's going to get. Kai was just diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and all the money that they had in the family that at that point had went to getting him back and forth to the hospital. So they had nothing for this kid. So I said, absolutely, we'll go do it. We'll go get more and bring it to you. The coolest thing was, again, we're faith-based. So I asked the guy, I said, do you mind if we pray for you and your grandson real quick? He said, no strings attached, no nothing. And he said, of course. In the middle of the rain, in the middle of the street, I watched this guy, Mike is 6'3", 6'4", dressed as Santa, get down on his knees in the middle of the street while it's raining, and grab this little boy and starts praying for him. And I'm standing there watching, and I'm going, that's Christmas. That's what this is supposed to be like. And that was the day that I knew, okay, that's it. I don't care what anything else happens for the rest of my life. This is what I'm doing. So thanks for being a part of it and being here today and extending it further. So what I don't mention in this is that, bro, you're killing me, man. You better stop back here because you're going to get me going. The guy that was Santa this year, Mike Chavis, was, I had accepted the role as that pastor in the church. And Mike at the time he did not have a relationship with Jesus. And I remembered him walking in my office one day, and I said, man, we're going to do a toy drive. And I said, I need for you to be Santa. And he said, no. I said, yeah. And he said, no. And we went back and forth for a couple of weeks. And I was looking for a Santa suit. And a friend of mine called me and said, I've got one, but whatever I have, we have to find somebody to fit it. So I said, okay. So we bring the suit in, and it's hanging on the closet door in my office. And Mike walks in one day. And I looked at Mike, and Mike is he's 6'3", muscular dude. I said, man, just for giggle's sake, I said, go try the suit on. So Mike takes the suit, he walks out, and he goes to the bathroom, he comes back, and he's dressed as Santa. He goes, guess I'm being Santa, ain't I? I said, yes, you are. So to get out on the street with this guy that didn't want to be Santa, who, in the church's eyes, doesn't know who Jesus is, to hear the story of the little boy Kai, to watch this guy grab this little boy in the middle of the rain, who himself doesn't know how to talk to Jesus, grabs this little boy on his hands and knees and hugs him and starts asking Jesus to heal him and touch him. That is an amazing thing. Anybody can communicate with Jesus. Don't shortchange yourself or the people around you and what God's doing in their hearts. God can move on you like crazy. And the people that you think don't have, or you don't think that they should be where you think they should be with God, don't sell them short. If it had not been for Mike that day, I probably wouldn't be doing this, because that's the image that has stayed with me forever, that God used to say, this is what you need to do.
So, well, that's great. Now we're all crying. So we're going to make him cry again. So can we put the slide up of Salvatore's stockings? So most of you got one of these. If you didn't, on the way out, they're on the welcome table. And one of the ways, after talking to Mike about kind of needs and where they're at, one of the ways that we can partner with them are two ways. One is with pajamas, so that we can hand those out and to kids. And then the other one is with the Salvatore stockings. What is that all about? And we're already 2 minutes over. That's cool. We're not over. We're just in God's time.
I can
All right.
handle that.
Yep. So.
Awesome. So, Salvatore stock. One of the things that I firmly believe with Breathe is that it's not just to minister to the people that are outside. That our team, the people that we make up the team, we're all broken. Not one of us is like we have everything together. And and I shared this before. And for me, because sometimes we can get to the point where like, God, can you really use me? I mean, I'm this, or I'm that, or I've done this in my life, or I haven't done that in my life. A lot of times we in the church sit out there and we look at Pastor Ryan or Molly or Pastor Jacob or Nick or somebody who's up here on the platform and go, they're on the platform, they've got it all together. And you have no idea the hurt that's gotten them to the point where they can stand in front of you and share Jesus. And in spite of what they've gone through, how Jesus still uses them. One thing that's always stayed with me when I get to the point where I'm going, I'm too broken, I'm too shattered, is that I go back to the story in the Bible where it talks about Jesus and he's on his way to be crucified. Jesus had been beaten, he had been whipped to the point where nobody could recognize him. They grabbed the crown of thorns and they shoved it on his head, and I don't want to be graphic, but I mean, it's a graphic sight. The blood is pouring down, he's raw meat. And he's now got this huge wooden cross on his shoulders, and he's carrying it down the street. They get to the top of a hill, and they throw him down on the ground, and then they grab 3 spikes, and they run them into his hands and into his feet. And then they yank it up, and they drop him into the ground on his cross. So now he's standing there. He's been beaten. He's shattered, completely broken physically, and it's still not done. The Bible says that in that moment, that God, his Father, turned his head away from him. That his dad couldn't even look at him because of the sickness and the sin that was put on Jesus' body. And in that moment, the guy next to him says, Jesus, I need you. Don't forget me when you get to heaven. And in all of his brokenness, Jesus turns and looks at him and he says, today, you'll be with me in paradise. So if Jesus can take all that brokenness, we can do the same thing. Salvatore Stockings, Robin Nizer is one of our board members. They lost a grandson. He was 29 years old. Salvatore, he died of a disease. And it shattered their life. And every time we would talk about Salvatore, it would just break Robin all over again. And I said, we've got to find a way that we can take Salvatore and honor his memory so where it's a good thing. It's a good feeling. So Robin went home and prayed, and I prayed, and we got together one day and said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do this thing called Salvatore Stockings, and we're going to add it to the toy drive. So now every kid gets a gift, a toy, they get a pair of pajamas, and they get a stocking. And the stocking is in honor of Salvatore. But the thing that's really cool for me is there's a card that gets attached to these stockings. I can't see it, so I can't. It's too small for me to read right now. But what it says this. It's a message from Salvatore, who right now is sitting with Jesus. And it says, I know you might be broken, and I know you might be hurting right now, and I know you've had a rough year, but Jesus sent me all the way here to tell you that he loves you. So people get these stockings. The kids get the stuff that's in the stockings, and they're just elated with what's in them. Then mom and dad get this, and they find hope in it. That's what we do. We put stockings together they're all sorted out by gender and then age group, rattles, baby bottles, Walkman, not Walkmans, but earbuds, Walkman, boy, is that old. Earbuds, can we erase that from the tape? Earbuds, all that, whatever it is, it goes into these kids' hands, and these kids know that they're not forgotten. But at the same time, mom and dad is getting this as a reminder, saying, hey, we're still here, we love you, but more importantly, Jesus is absolutely crazy about you. We get a chance to pray with a lot of people because of this.
And so kind of asking and talking to his board and looking at, all right, what are the big needs? So again, these stockings, and if you got one of these, just to name a few of the things in here, can be anything from stuffed animals to toothpaste to crayons to Play-Doh bubbles, hats, gloves, bath bombs, okay, yes, I do know what that is. Matchbox cars, not matchboxes, and then we got, washcloths, everything, you can think of in these stockings. And the idea is that we'll hit what age bracket, if, moving forward, what age bracket is the most need at.
So for pajamas, it's actually pretty much the same for both. Right now, we need everything as far as stockings go. The age group that we seem to need the most of is, I'd say, like 8 to 14. It seems like it's a forgotten age. We get a ton of stuff for babies and little kids, and we even get stuff for older kids. But this group right in here, we seem to be missing. We get a ton of stuff for 6 to 8-year-olds. So I'd say 8 to 14 in the stockings, and then the same age group for those pajamas too. And as we go forward, we'll have everything up on our website, on our Facebook page, and everything that's even more detailed as we get into collecting stuff and we're counting things, so you can see, hey, this is the actual need. This is what I need to go get now.
Yep, and again, as we're walking forward and partnering, one of the great places that we have up here to shop at is like an Ollie's or like a Five Below, like you had mentioned, just a pair of headphones, and and all those places are great. So that's going to be there, and I realize we've got Operation Christmas Child, and that is our now. So right now, my encouragement for you is to look at planning out your next couple months wisely in how you're going to give to these ministries. I realize it's a lot. We've got Operation Christmas Child. That's going to be our big thing right now. That's why we started it in July, so that we can have those things in. So if you haven't brought your Operation Christmas Child stuff in, let's go ahead and do that. I know last year we hit, was it 100 boxes we did last year? 124 boxes last year. Diana Smith heads that up. When that door closes, we're going to open the door to begin to raise these things. And so begin to think about how you can partner and where your heart is. And on top of that, we'll be assembling a team of just 6 to 8 of us to go down on, it's the weekend of December 16th is the weekend that they give stuff away. Our team would leave early Friday. We'd arrive, help them work Friday night, help them wrap gifts all day Saturday, and then Sunday go out and hand those gifts out and then come back on Monday. So just trying to keep a small team. Several people have already pre-signed up for the team, so we're at 72 people now. No, just kidding, but there'll be, yes. So we're putting that together and looking at what that looks like, and putting wheels on this thing. Moving forward, Mike, just last question. I apologize for a few minutes over, but last question would be, are there any immediate needs with Breathe Ministries that we can pray about as a church and so on and so forth?
Yeah. If Micah, can you put the slide up that's got the Breathe logo with our website and everything on there, please? So one of the biggest things right now, because we do not do government grants, is finances. The only way we survive is through donations that come in. We've got a wheelbarrow that sits outside that people drop off food, things like that, but really finances. If we don't have the finances to keep the building up and running, open, we can't do it. If we don't have the finances to stock the pantry, the market rather, we can't do it. We just had our HVAC unit just completely died on us, and we found out it was going to be $2,000. And we're going, great. At the same time, we got a $3,000 tax bill. So, and that's not saying, I hate asking for money because everybody thinks you're money hungry. No, it's not that. We literally cannot keep our doors open if people don't help. And somebody thinks, well, we don't have a lot of money we can't give. We have something called the 320 Club, where we have 300 vacancies that we're trying to fill up in $20 increments. So maybe you could do $20 and you can fill one of them, or maybe you can do 100 and you fill 5 of them. Or maybe you go, Mike, I've only got $5 a month that I can share. Awesome. Find 3 other friends that could do $5, and then the 4 of you fill up 1 slot. Help us get the AC fixed or the heat fixed, and this is what we need.
Yeah,
and a lot of prayer.
So moving forward, we've got, as for those of you that are church members, we've got a business meeting. We'll do our business meeting in October. where we'll talk about the year particulars that we need to talk about. So just be praying how we might partner with them and and share how God's speaking to you. And then afterwards, I'm going to pray for Mike in the ministry, and then afterwards, Mike will be up here. If you need prayer or you have questions or you just want to grill him, you can come on up, and Mike would love answering that. He's passionate about this.
I'd love the opportunity to pray with anybody. I mean, the reality is we talk about being broken, and maybe you're feeling at this point that you're broken, or you're coming out of season and you're going, how do I get through this? How do I get myself together where I can actually be used of God? You don't have to figure that out. You just have to be willing. And I would love to have the opportunity to pray with you for that, or for anything for that matter. The best way to keep in touch with us and to stay updated with what's going on is follow our Facebook page. I'm doing videos all the time, and you get to see what's going on and go from there.
And get to see this lovely face. Let's pray. God, thank you for Mike, and thank you for his heart to be the hands and feet of Jesus in Baltimore. And God, as we look at what that might look like for us to partner, and God, as we move forward, Lord God, I pray that you would speak to our church family. God, I pray for, in particular, this new need that just happened as the AC unit broke this past week. I pray that you would meet that need in an overabundant way. God, we just want you to be glorified. Lord, I pray that you would guide our steps as a church, Mike's steps as a leader, and God, guide this board, bless this ministry above and beyond. Lord, I pray that you would open the floodgates of heaven and that you would do above and beyond all we can ask, think, or imagine. We trust you. We love you. Thank you for salvation, and I pray that we would continually call out to you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.